Sports Radio Network.
I don't want to lose. I want to win.
I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly is sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is easy sports data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Podcast. As always, we're going to be joined by a couple of our cohorts. Now, these aren't just cohorts. I always tell you, you could tell a guy's name or you tell the guy's family by his name, you know, Joey Lucipello, Jeffrey Paranetti, but we've got 151 Sports Investing and GMF Sports Consulting, and those are names that just kind of say, hey, we know what we're doing. So let's do this without any hesitation. Let's get these guys mic'd open. We've got to be back on those. I know that we had some issues previously, but that is part of that's part of the price you pay. So you don't have to pay to watch our show. And then if it's like 2 of 8 in New York, you're watching live. You're not on a recording. You are watching. And we're cashing tickets tonight. So in the next hour, you're going to cash tickets. The question is when and for how much. But remember, it's a tough time of year, right, John, from GMF Sports? What are you really betting on today?
Yeah, it's really kind of just a quiet season, so to speak, getting ready for NFL. So, we're kind of playing MLB real cautiously because right now these games are just crazy out of control. It's unbelievable, some of these bullpens that are going on in MLB. So I'm just watching preseason football right now, just gathering some information and, taking some mental notes and getting ready to kick off the NFL season here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Rams beat the Lions today, 13-10. Is that a correct score? Did I see that?
I'm not sure if they played today.
That was the Angels and the Tigers.
Oh, yeah. That's why I was like, what? Yeah, that was crazy. Those are one of those games because at one point I was watching that game and the Tigers were up 10-2. And you think at that point, that's it. Put this game to bed, regardless of what inning it is. And then sure enough, here comes the Angels roaring back. And then they up and they wind up winning 13-10. So, yeah, this is one of those reasons where I say, man, these bullpens are crazy. For a lot of guys who are betting MLB right now, I suggest just taking first 5, guys. That's about it. Keep your units very small, too, because right now is a tricky time of the year for MLB.
Yeah, Jonathan from San Antonio and I talked today. He lost back-to-back days. He lost 6-run leads, and it really is no lead is safe. If you're up 10-2 in baseball, what you should be doing is waiting in line, chit-chatting with your arm on the counter with the guy that's about to cash your ticket. That's what you should be doing, but it doesn't work like that right now, Blackhawk West, does it?
No, not in baseball, it doesn't. And I was going to say, I know, John, you've been pretty quiet with the baseball, so hearing you advise everybody to cut your units, that makes sense. And it's a dangerous time for baseball because whoever's in is in, and they're going to keep going. But there's some resting decisions being made, and whoever's not in, who knows what they're playing for, but they're not playing for my money.
Right. So we're not going to have any live action in baseball when I've got 3 games I'm looking at. I could see watching this Milwaukee St. Louis game, and if by maybe 8:30 New York time, 5:30 out here in San Diego, it's still low scoring in the 3rd, 4th inning, and the pitcher's got some pitch counts up, I might hop on over there. I know Milwaukee's can score some runs, but other than that, Yankees are already up 4-0, and the Miami-Cincinnati game. You know what? If you guys Venmo me money right now, I still wouldn't bet that game with your money. But we've got a Canadian Football League game tonight. We're going to talk Canadian football. Again, if you're not familiar with Canadian football, well, guess what? You will be because we're going to be, and you're going to tag along right with us because Blackhawk West is going to lead up our Saturdays in Canada segment on To Be Determined, which starts Saturday, August 28th. And more importantly, we're going to talk about it tonight. Now, I actually have, hold on, Blackhawk West. I have my first ever Easy Sports Data Report for Canadian football. There's not much on it. We'll talk about that next. And again, I did hop on live. I forgot that there was a game at 4:30 tonight. For some reason, I was thinking the game started at 5 and we would hop on it, as soon as we started. But I got in at Patriots minus 3.5. And then I went to get in again at Patriots minus 5.5, and I got shut out. And when I looked, the reason I got shut out is because they had scored. So I got a 7-point lead, and I'm giving 3.5 points, which it is not a bad place to be. But what I know about the Eagles is that the Eagles don't score in playoff games. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you two guys back to back about a couple things I have on my brain, and that'll give me time to kind of pick up my cheat sheet. But let's start with John. John, when you have a game during the regular season like this, New England's the AFC, Philadelphia is the NFC East, which arguably is the most consistently bad conference in football. They're consistent. They're just consistently bad. Do you, in a regular season game, does the AFC, NFC thing, does that mean anything to you?
No, I won't. I'll see if there's any stat trend that really kind of blows my mind out of the water. But I won't really, solely, base my plays just on that. But I'll take a look at it. But yeah, that's not something I would normally consider. I'm more concerned with obviously teams traveling, west to East Coast and how the time affects them. Obviously, something like this game, preseason or just Patriots versus Philly doesn't have that type of effect. So I'm not really too worried about that. The interleague mix-up or anything like that. I'm just looking at, kind of your regular trends overall and how they've both been playing, within the last few weeks.
Well, that's a great point, too, because Blackhawk West, we're looking at this data for Canadian Football League, and it's very similar to the data for the NFL preseason with a big chunk missing. A whole year of data is missing. And so what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to let the first week settle in last week, and I think I started 5 straight winners, and then I had a couple. And those little units that John is recommending you play in baseball, cut it in half, and that's what I'm playing on this preseason stuff. But action is great when you win because it builds your bankroll, and then when you find an opportunity to bet more. But when you have that whole year missing, what I'm looking for is, okay, this game now is the second game preseason, but next week is the third week, which is the last week. So I have no idea what's happening with preseason football. I'm just going to have some fun and look at the numbers and see if I can find where they match up. With Canadian football, did you now start to see these teams resemble, Wes, something that you saw 2 years ago?
Yes, they are. And, week 1, it was all underdogs. It was all underdogs covering, and the defenses didn't really show up, and some of the quarterbacks weren't playing the way they could. I will tell you, Fajardo from Sask is what he looks like compared to 2 years ago. He took a huge step forward. So I really don't know if he just made really good film study time of his quarantine and his 2020, but Fajardo is in a world of his own. He is now, in my opinion, the crown jewel quarterback for the league. But, the CFL is different. I don't know what it's like to try and get CFL-related information through TV if you actually live in Canada. I've never lived in Canada. But, like last week's game, we're all exchanging messages. Bo Levi Mitchell comes into the season hurt. That's one of the most exciting quarterbacks. I'd love to see him play on Sundays. He threw 4 picks last week, and lack of information. He was playing hurt. And now he's got the 6-game injury, which is kind of the IR that they put him on in CFL. But yeah, it's starting to settle in. Last weekend, we really hit our stride. Last weekend was an 11-2 weekend. You guys got every single play that I had. And so, but for 2 teams, really, it looks like business as usual. Winnipeg is doing Winnipeg things. They look like they're in a complete world of their own. They're allowing 7, 8 points or less every single game. They're not scoring a ton, but their defense looks exactly the way it did. It's next man up on running back. They got a Hall of Fame running back that's questionable for tomorrow's game. Next man up. I mean, Harris is out. White steps in, over 100 yards a game. So Winnipeg is just rinse, repeat. But then you look at Sask, and again, I was talking about Fajardo, but Sask is the same team they were, but they've taken a step forward. Their defense is unstoppable. They're over 30 points 2 weeks in a row. They're just exciting to watch. So those two teams absolutely look like they did 2 years ago. The rest of them, Calgary, Edmonton, they don't look the same. Edmonton was getting great quarterback play, and they had the best wide receiving core, in my opinion, 2 years ago. They don't look anything like that. They're getting sacked left and right. They're struggling to run the ball. You look at Calgary, they're now going to have to figure out the quarterback position, where that hasn't been an issue for them for the last 10 years with, two Grey Cup winning quarterbacks. So in some ways they look like they did 2 years ago. You see some steps forward, but in other ways, those two teams I mentioned, Edmonton and Calgary, they are not the same. Edmonton, in my opinion, is the worst team in the CFL right now.
All right. So what I looked at when I've got the data is the fact that because it's only the third week, and every single week with a 9-team league in 4 games, somebody gets a bye. There are 4 of these 8 teams that haven't had a matchup game yet, which means they haven't played home or away in one of the series. So there's just no data. Yet, for both Calgary and Sask, how do you say it? Sask? Is that how you say it?
It's Sask, rather than Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's just Sask.
No, I bite my lip. I'd bite my cheek or something if I had to say
the Riders.
Both of those guys are starting the season with 3 straight home games. Well, you know what? That sure beats 3 straight road games, and that's got to have some kind of impact. The third straight game at home. Yeah,
it does happen with the 3 straight games at home on occasion, and they play a home and home on occasion. Like tomorrow, I believe it's Saturday, the Winnipeg game, they played the same team last week, 2 weeks in a row. So that does happen, and it has to happen with only 9 teams in the league. And there was talk of expansion getting a 10th team, but a lot of revenue lost in 19. But the 3 in a row and the teams that have only played 1 or 2 games, that it's just what happens with odd numbers. But over the course of a 20-game season, it works itself out.
Yeah, Patriots are now up 13-0. I'm trying to get an Eagles team total under in, but so far the book's not allowing me to do that. But one of the other things that we talked about with the Saskatchewan, the Calgary, the teams that are the best teams is when you get the NFL games and you see a schedule and you get 3 road games in a row, those teams are beat up by that third game. That's a real tough trip in the NFL to do that. Is it the same in Canada? When we see a third road game in a row, do we perk our ears?
I don't give much thought to it in terms of who I'm going to play. I do give thought to the home, and we talked about it when we were breaking down NHL games. When you play a team 2 games in a row or even 3 games in a row, you really want to lay more points. You kind of lean that's winning football games. They just kind of get used to it. But that Canadian travel is brutal. I mean, these cities. This is not driving from Chicago to Indianapolis or St. Louis to Kansas City. I mean, these are long ways away. I mean, you're going from Toronto to British Columbia.
Yeah, I would imagine for most of us. Well, I'm going to ask John. I don't have to take my opinion. John, could you tell me where British Columbia and Toronto are on the map?
Sure. I know Toronto's a little bit more East Coast. I mean, I could probably give you a ballpark figure, but I don't think I can give a definite location of any of those. I've never made it north across the border yet, so I'm not too familiar with any of those areas.
And here's where we're at. So, again, if it's 8/11 on Thursday night in New York City right now, you're watching us live. A week from now, though, we'll not be talking preseason football. We'll be talking real college football. Now, there are only a handful of games that are actually Saturday the 28th. I think there's 5 games. However, it's Labor Day weekend the next weekend. college football starts like on Wednesday or Thursday, and then we get 4 or 5 days of it. So, John, in terms of college football, you already mentioned it's quiet for you. So describe what that means. What does quiet for you mean?
Yeah, me personally, it's I have a little bit tougher time capping college football just because there's a lot of teams that I don't necessarily follow. So my plays are real limited, and that's conclusive to the teams that I track and the teams that I follow. It's for me and my clients. We're more NFL guys. That's the majority of it. I will have some plays, but I'm, I know there's probably over 100 games on a regular college football, slate. If I'm maybe on 3 or 4 of those, that's a lot for me personally on a Saturday compared to, a football, middle of football season. I could be on 5, 6, 7 plays from Monday to late night. So I definitely a little bit quieter for me personally on the college football side.
Yeah, so I would say I know Black Hawk West enough to know that's probably the opposite side of the spectrum for you, right, Wes?
Yeah, Saturdays are big for me. I mean, I have some plays for next week already for week 0 and week 1. I even there's a couple dog outright money line winners that I'm looking at. I pay attention to the recruiting, the coaching. I do play the NFL, but you guys have known me long enough and that I have a lot of rules with NFL and the way that I lay my action. I don't do Thursday night. I don't do Sunday night. I won't do Monday night. And then I won't do any combination of NFC East matchup. And so I throw a lot away in the NFL. So by the time we get to Sunday, I do have plays, but I do a lot more with college, and there's a lot more to do. With the NFL, you're limited to the 16 games. College, I enjoy the 100 games because I don't have a problem betting on your local high school if they're going to cover the spread. If they're playing against North Dakota State, it really doesn't matter to me if I find value there. So next week, the way that my members and I are approaching it is we'll bet more games than normal. Normally, we're probably looking at between 6 and 8 core position games. So games that we go into with action before it starts, before we look at our live action plays, we'll probably be looking more at between 9 and 11 plays because what we're trying to do is we're trying to buy down the impact percentage of a loss on a week 1 going into it with uncertainty. I don't want that one loss to cost me 15%. I'd rather have that loss cost me more like 7 or 8% because, again, we're managing it the same way that's your investment portfolio. You lose 7% in your IRA, that's a big deal. And we look at the Saturday and the Sunday action the same way.
Yeah, and when we get back, we're going to talk about some of those rules because at first they make you think, but then if you hang around with the dude long enough, you say he might be a genius. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly. We're on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Belly Up Sports Podcast, the Sports Betting Channel. We'll be right back.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. If it is 8:18 in New York or 5:18 here in San Diego, if it's 5:18 here in San Diego, the sun is still pretty up in the sky. It's fairly warm out. But what we are doing is we are talking to Black Hawk West from 151 Sports Investing and John from GMF Sports Consultants. We're talking about quite a bit of stuff because this is really the last show where we're not going to have some real football to talk. And I am not disrespecting Canadian football at all. But let me ask John from GMF Sports Consultants. John, You're on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Tell the world, did you watch any Canadian Football League last week?
I have not watched any. I have watched 0 minutes of Canadian Football League this year. I've never gotten into it. I have no idea the team names or who plays on what. Just never fully got into it. Always been an MLB guy, end of the season, and then gearing up for preseason NFL. So yeah, that's totally not on my radar right now.
Yeah, I have watched it. And how I would describe it as a bigger range of quality than the NFL for sure. The worst NFL teams aren't as bad as some of the football I saw, but there are some college teams where you see where they just look like they're rusty. They look like they're not there. I'm wondering, Wes, is that an advantage to us?
It can be. And there is a bigger range. Like I said, right now you got two teams, Winnipeg and Sask. They're in a world of their own. The rest of the teams, who cares who ends up in the playoffs as the other two spots? So, from the outside looking in, you got to keep in mind these are players that they were not drafted in 7 rounds of an NFL draft, or they made an NFL roster and they didn't end up finding their way to a starting position in the NFL. So and a lot of these players, you could remember them as stars. You know, Nick Marshall was the star quarterback at Auburn in that kick 6 game. He's a corner. He's a cornerback for a team in the CFL, and he's actually rather good at it. And there's some former Ohio State players, but it's just very different. And I think you described it quite well. I don't know that the worst team in the NFL. I highly doubt that they could that the best team in the CFL could beat them. But it's certainly fun to create that argument. And I love to throw names around. Like, I'd love to see him play in the NFL, but they're not playing in the NFL for a reason.
Yeah, and there really is. There's the first 2-3 weeks before college teams get into conference play. And don't get me wrong, you could have some variables in conference play as well. The worst of the SEC and the worst of the Big Ten are really, really bad. But the point spread tends to even those things out. And I do notice that Sask is given 10.5. And that's fairly early in the year to be given double digits, right?
I'm not laying 10 points on anybody. My approach to the Sask game, because of the way that Cody Fajardo is playing, I'm going team over for Sask on the first half, 13.5, and I'm going team over for the game for Sask, 26.5 or 27.5, wherever you can find it. But Sask is going to hang 30. They're going to hang points early, and that's my approach to it. I'm not laying 10.5 points. I look the other way, even in a college football game this early in the season, but 10.5, I'm not laying that on a CFL game. Not right now. Sask probably will cover the spread, but what do you say? Not with my money.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I mentioned earlier, I talked to Jonathan Jork. We had a long chat today. It must be on the phone 30, 40 minutes. He's a rep for Vegas Insider. He does his picks on there, but he's had a tough baseball season. But you know him as Jonathan from San Antonio if you watch our show, and he's been hanging around here for 6, 7 years now. He's really, really good. His expertise, I would say, is in small schools. So when football comes in and it slides into college basketball, he'll give you names that you didn't even know the school. And if they didn't have a Division I program, you were a little confused. But sure enough, there's a line on the game. And we talked about transparency and how right now the industry, the sports betting industry, is just full of everybody that's an expert and everybody's a genius and everybody's got this. And he talked about they only put on their winners. They never tell about their losers. You never hear it. And I laugh because if you look at the bottom of our screen right now, and again, if it's 8:23 in New York, you're seeing it live. Catch all our past winners at. It doesn't matter what it says after that. The bottom line is John's been talking to John for years now. He's been talking to Wes for years now. And every conversation we've ever had, we recorded. And then we didn't do the Nixon tapes on these recordings. There's no splicing. There's no editing. Well, don't get me wrong. We clean up the video when we have streaming issues. But other than that, every single play is on that website, sportsbettingweekly.com. And while I'm talking about the banners at the bottom of the page, let's go and throw the guy's social medias up on there. So John is GMF_sports_consultants. That's Instagram. Wes is on Twitter at 151_sports. But wanted to get back to that tease that I threw out right before the break in. Update on the Patriots game. I'm not watching the game. I just got my book up to see if I can get a team total under on the Eagles. And at this point, 13 minutes into the second quarter, I don't think I'm going to get that. I don't think so because they haven't shown it to me yet. And that's the other thing, but we talk about it all the time, guys. You got to shop around, not just for lines, but even for that opportunity. That's part of the house advantage. If I don't think I'm going to win this bet, well, I'm not going to offer this bet. And you know what? That's I could say some words, but I don't want to get either Belly Up Sports Podcast Network or the Worldwide Sports Radio Network in any trouble with my tongue. So we're going to go back to Wes's idiosyncrasies about how he bets NFL. And I laughed because who doesn't want to bet Thursday? By Thursday night, if you're a football guy, it's like Monday was a year and a half ago. You can't wait for Thursday. And they're always the most horrible games. We spent an entire season, me and Tommy and the guys, going down to the Fox Sports Grill and doing our show live from the Fox Sports Grill. And it was some ugly Thursday football. The only thing that saved us was almost all the TVs also had the college games on. There's usually 2 or 3 college games that night. But just ugly football. And then Sunday night, same thing. Monday night, same thing. But, Wes, let's remind them. What do you say?
Don't touch them. I don't do it. And I Thursday night's ugly football. You got one team that's either coming off a short week. You got another team that's coming off a long week. But the players have been very outspoken. They do not want the Thursday night game. I mean, that's not a secret. And, so the Thursday night game, there's just no reason for it. And the way that I look at the Sunday night and Monday night game is this. The Monday night game and, sports investing and what we're doing is there's emotion that ties into it. And so Monday night it can be a coin flip no matter who's playing. We've seen more dogs win or cover on a Monday night or a Sunday night game than on any other time. And I don't have numbers in front of me, but the emotional point that I stress to my members is this. You lose the Monday night game, right? Well, what are you going to do? You're waking up Tuesday morning, jonesing, trying to fix that loss. And you go into the next week with a head full of steam trying to fix it. And you got to sit there and accept the loss with all your testosterone. And you have to accept the loss. And then you have to somehow make good decisions for your plan going into next week. Most people can't do it. I can't do it. So I walk away from it. And on Sunday night, what's going to happen? If you go into Sunday night after your entire weekend, you're going to go into Monday night with that same mentality, and then it could snowball. By the time we get to Sunday night, I've already been in all day on Saturday. I've been in all day on Sunday. I'm not doubling up on anything. Yeah, I'm bankroll management, same strategy. So there's really no reason to go into it, and it's more important to me than one more win. Or risking the loss. I'm just not going to give it back. And it's Money Monday. I want to get paid on Monday, and I want to turn the page and focus on the following week. Thursday night, you got, in many cases, a handful of college games to choose from. So there's no reason to get pigeonholed to the Thursday night NFL game when you potentially have 4 other games, college, and most of the time it's a big spread and somebody's going to kill the other guy, and it could be stress-free.
Well, it's so funny because John, you mentioned, you're not big in the college. College starts earlier, hence the whole wake and bake segment that we're going to be doing on Saturdays. And it ends later. I mean, games start at 7:30. I'm not even talking about the Hawaii fix. I'm talking about the West Coast game start at 7:30. And there's no really pro game that ever starts past, 5:15, 5:20, something like that. So it really is. It is such a long, long day Saturday. But we could probably come up with a logo, an SNFA logo, Sunday Night Football Anonymous or something. We could start. No way. What? If you don't think, if books start, numbers go down on Sunday night after we start this little movement, for lack of they'll be hacking our servers. I'll have to make my. Hey, son, go on and start Daddy's car for me. I was having trouble with the transmission or something. I don't know. Start the car for Daddy,
It might not be a bad idea somewhere for the bettors to hide on Sunday night. That way they don't have to watch the games or bet the game. You know what I mean? As long as you don't see it on TV, I think they'll be all right.
Well, John, you've been dealing with your clients for years now. The bottom line is discipline is something that most human beings do not attain.
It's patience and discipline. Those are the top 2 things, and that's why 95% of the people in the betting world don't make it to, professional levels, so to speak, is because that's what everybody lacks. Patience, discipline, bankroll management. Obviously doing research and, knowing the games and picking it, and a little bit of luck obviously factors in. But if you don't got those top three with you, you will never be successful betting. I don't care what it is long term. You will never do it.
Take out the betting, John. School,
anything. Yeah. Just
word,
everyday life. Yeah.
Any word in there, and it's you might want to say you won't be as good as you could be, because it's possible to have a successful something without those things. Just very highly unlikely. I tell the kids, possibility, probability, they're two different things.
Two different things. Anything can happen. Could you throw in a parlay and get rich off of one parlay? Sure, that might happen. Chances of that happening, slim to none. And, to kind of go back on what your friend was saying about the industry, is that there's a lot of these guys on the internet, on Instagram, making it look like they win every day. Guys, that's not going to happen, guys. The old saying, if it was that easy, everybody would do it. Let me tell you, it took me a long, long time to figure out how to bet, to realize what I was doing wrong, and then kind of tweak it. And, everybody has their own system and works for them. But, yeah, it's discipline, patience. That's what I could recommend. If you don't have those two things, don't bet.
So we miss all the time. We're very open with each other. You guys watch me lay an egg week one of CFL. I mean, we miss all the time, but we manage it the right way.
Exactly. That's the big key.
The way we do it, really, it becomes, and which Tommy Pence used to talk about this all the time. If you do it right, it's a nice second part-time job. Is what it becomes. You still got to put in the hours. You got to put in the time. Unless you got, there's some people like Paolo does his soccer plays. Okay, there are some people that pay Paolo for his soccer plays. He gives them to us, but other people pay for him, and he's very, very good at it. And that's worth the money. But the dude gets up really early in the morning to start studying the markets in countries that are 12 hours behind or ahead of us. So it really is, it becomes a situation where you're going to lose if you manage it properly. And you could really, if you do it right, we have times when we're betting money lines and dogs that, you can go 6-5 and have make more money than a guy that went 7-2. And that's what it comes down to, because I've always told people, especially in baseball with pitchers that are minus, there's so many minus 240s and above this year, 320s and above. I don't want to don't ever tell me your baseball winning percentage, because you're disrespecting my knowledge as a sports bettor, basically. It gives me an attitude. What I want to do is, when we come back, we're going to do a lot of talking about to be determined, because it's going on a week from Saturday, and I'm really excited about a lot of it. I'm excited about the soccer. I've told you guys for years, Chris Martinez, he lives down in Tijuana. He's got a company that helps businesses with their internet. I haven't talked to him in a while because of the pandemic and the border being shut, but I tweet back and forth, and we text occasionally. And he was the one that told me from the beginning, the reason soccer's so good, if you go on Flash Score. Now, Flash Score is without a doubt the best soccer site that I know. We're actually trying to get them involved with the show. They'll have 1,300 soccer matches listed, 87 basketball, 113 football games, and 1,333 soccer games. So out of 1,033, like we talk about, it's very difficult with the CFL. There's only 4 games. You got 1,033. You can find 4 games pretty much that you're gonna cash. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about to be determined, but we're also gonna do a little taster. We get a little taster. The flights. The flights of beer and the flights of wine and flights of vodka. You get a flight. We're gonna get some flights of CFL when we get back. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Belly Up Sports Podcast Network, and the Sports Betting Channel.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
At championshipfootballs.com, they offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a New England Patriots fan or an Ohio State Buckeyes backer. Maybe Gramps is a lifelong New York Giants supporter. Or your brother-in-law is a 12th man living in Seattle. Know a member of the Michigan State Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Baltimore Ravens fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, they're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggies or Tulane Green Wave alumnus, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season, footballs.com. The name is championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Hey, this is an important message. I'm Second Half Chaz from Sports Betting Weekly. Sports betting is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. If you're hurting yourself by gambling with money you don't have, check out our website for the Gamblers Anonymous phone number.
When Vince Young scored on 4th and 5 in the 2006 Rose Bowl, two things happened. The Texas Longhorns won the NCAA title, and championshipfootballs.com was born. From Texas to Alabama to Ohio State, and now for Super Bowl winners too. Championshipfootballs.com is the place for the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, 10 years later, championshipfootballs.com has the autographs too. See if any of these names remind you of a special time in your football life. Michael Bennett, Lou Holtz, Joe Montana, Devin Smith, Jameis Winston, Rocky Blyer, Rocket Ishmael, Ara Parsegian, Mike Stonebreaker, Chris Zorich, Luther Bradley, Todd Light, Tony Rice, Lawrence Taylor, Dave Casper, Marcus Mariota, Rudy Rudiger, David Tyree. Enter the promo code RADIO and you'll instantly save $50 on any of the championshipfootballs.com autographed footballs. Championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am Second Half Chaz. If you're joining us live, it's 8:36 in New York, and we're talking live wagering is kind of tough these last few weeks. It's really one of the reasons that we stopped, really, the shows in July, and I think that I liked it enough to let you know that I've made an official decision that you won't see me next July anywhere near my camera or my microphone. I think I'm going to go to Greece and visit Paulo. Take Vicky and go to Greece. Doesn't go into Greece in July for 2 weeks, guys, if there's no masks on. Doesn't that sound like it will be a good time? Man. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little about To Be Determined. It starts August 28th. It really is. It's like 4 shows in one. And really, I need to get an echo device and do it like I did it on the video. 4 shows in one, but it is. We're going to start off, and we really don't even have the order yet, but I think we're going to start off with Mo. Mo's going to cover the Easy Sports data. So what Mo and I are going to do, we're going to look at the Easy Sports data, and it's called Something's Gotta Give, because so many times you got a team that all they do is score, playing a team that all they do is not allow points, and something's got to give. So we're going to give Mo, 3 of those a week. And now, don't get me wrong. These are not games that Mo's going to be picking. These are games where he's going to be force-fed. But I'd be shocked that after 4 or 5 weeks, his winning record isn't, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5, somewhere in that range. He's just very, very good. We're going to do Paulo's plays. And I mentioned Paulo's been calling us. Now if you watched the show in the past, it was Sabriano. That's what we called him. His real name's Paulo. And most of the people that I know in my life, I don't call them by their real name anyway, right? Black Hawk. So, John, I think I call you John, though. I really do. I think I call you John. So it's on a short list of people I call by their real name. I'm a Mark Chaz guy, so in that respect, I'll answer. I actually pretty much just ignore people until they tap me on the shoulder. That's been my philosophy in life. It's worked out well because I found that if you ignore people, they sometimes will go away. Usually the ones you want to go away don't, but that's kind of here nor there. But what we're looking at with Paulo is soccer play. So he's going to talk to us, probably talk on Thursday for the Saturday show. Soccer, very similar. Football, very similar to football. doesn't have games every day. So you can talk about it 2 days in advance. You know, I mentioned Jonathan from San Antonio. We're going to get together doing some small ball talk with him where he's going to give us small schools in both football and basketball that are playing on Saturdays and Sundays. But one of the things with Paulo is you can do it in soccer. You can't do it in baseball. And John, you know that. I can't talk to you about a Saturday game on Thursday. I got a Thursday and a Friday game I got to worry about. And what happens in those Thursday and Friday games could impact Saturday. And then, of course, we're going to have Saturdays in Canada with Black Hawk West. And let's talk about this Saturday in Canada episode. Really, we can cover all 4 games. So in a couple hours, I got an opportunity to cash a ticket. Will I take that opportunity? Am I going to watch a game? What am I looking for?
So Saturday in Canada, I mean, I have action tonight and tomorrow, but Saturday.
Oh, no, talk about tonight first. Let's go through all 4 games.
All right, so tonight I'm on BC, and I'm on BC for a couple different reasons. Week 1, BC started Nathan Rourke, he was a 5-year senior from the University of Ohio, very mobile quarterback, Canadian guy, but it was an unexpected start for him. And they got the doors beat off of them in the first half against Sask, and then they just fought back, and they actually backdoor covered against Sask, and that's not an easy thing to do because we talked about them earlier. So, but Riley is playing. He actually came into that game. The way that Riley is firing the ball right now, and he's a future Hall of Famer for the CFL, but he threw 4 touchdowns last week. The way that he is playing right now, nobody is going to beat BC, but Edmonton they're getting good play out of the quarterback. They're getting good play out of Wilder Jr. out of Florida State at running back, but they're not scoring points, and their defense doesn't look very good. So tonight I'm taking BC for the first quarter, laying 0.5. I'm also laying 3.5 or 3. I jumped on both because it dropped to 3, but I'm laying 3 on BC for the game tonight. And after week 1, I feel a little bit more comfortable when these spreads are narrowing. I think that the only reason, that's the Saturday game I'm going to talk about, but I think I'm more comfortable at this point after the week 1 all dogs. But looking at tomorrow's game,
Montreal and Calgary.
Yeah. Now I think that what happened last week created a gift for us in 2 ways. The Owls hung 30 points on an Edmonton team that is really struggling to score. So they beat Edmonton 30-13, which is causing, and at the same time, Calgary, Bo Levi Mitchell being injured through 4 interceptions, which is very uncharacteristic of a former MOP. They have MOPs, not MVPs in Canada, but it's very uncharacteristic of Bo Levi Mitchell, who's now injured. So I think that they're going to get re-energized by the quarterback. But what that game, the last week's games did for us is it created a 5.5-point spread. I'm taking Calgary and the 5.5 points in the game. I don't think the Owls are going to be able to keep up. I think that Calgary is going to find some new energy with that wide receiving core and a quarterback that is healthy. They did not have a problem running the ball or moving the ball down the field.
This is where I interject because you're going to get this next Thursday. You're going to get these same 2 games, but we're not going to talk about Saturday. So those 2 games on Saturday, if you want those 2 games, you're going to have to check in. Now, the thing you got going for you, though it's live at 8 o'clock in New York, 11 o'clock in New York, 8 o'clock out here, it's also going to be pre-recorded, so you can watch it on the Sports Betting channel. You could watch it on Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. You watch it on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network again, because those games Saturday, Wes, they're not till night. There's never day games, are there?
So the game that's taking place this Saturday is at 3 o'clock. The Argos and Winnipeg. So you will be able to jump on this action very shortly after listening to us. But the 3 o'clock on Saturday game, that won't exist once college football starts. If you go to the following week, the game's at 6 o'clock at night on Saturday.
You'll have plenty of time. So you really have no choice. You got to watch both Thursday and Saturday if you want to catch tickets. That's basically how we're going to do it. Is it right? I don't know if it's right, but it's what we're doing. So let's talk about Saturday.
Saturday's Winnipeg against the Toronto Argos. I don't understand. I cannot figure it out. Winnipeg is not allowed more than 7 points, and they played against they played against Hamilton, and in week 1, the Argos. I'm sorry, the Argos they're not very good. And I don't think that we're going to find a different result. It was 20-7 last week. Winnipeg's doing some travel. The travel from Winnipeg to Toronto is really no different than flying from Minneapolis to Cleveland. I mean, it's kind of like that, or Minneapolis to Buffalo, probably an hour and a half flight. So I don't see that being too big of a deal. Winnipeg is just a well-coached, disciplined team. So I think Winnipeg's going to score more. I think that Toronto might score a little bit more. But my play there is Winnipeg -3, -3.5, wherever you got it. Winnipeg is in a world of their own. They're going to win. They're going to cover. And I like the under. The under is at 47 points. Even if Winnipeg hangs 30, I don't see Toronto being able to score. I don't see Toronto being able to score enough points to accommodate that 47-point spread. So Winnipeg is very consistent. They very rarely fail. They're going to lose a game this year. The interesting game for them is going to be on September 5th, opening college weekend, because they're going to play Sask. And that could be a Grey Cup preview.
So let's get an update before we go on to the next game. Let's get an update. The Patriots are up 19-0 now. I don't know if they're not kicking extra points or going for 2, what they're doing. I'm not watching. But that Eagle team total unders is winning for the first half. There's no doubt about it, and looking great for the game as well. So let's talk about a couple things based on what Blackhawk West was just saying. We have a button that we use for the cash register where I push it and it makes the cash register sound for every time you guys gave out a winner on the show. And it ended up breaking because we used it too much, so we're getting a new one. But I think after Wes's airplane discussion, we need a geography button because, as you know, here in America, we speak English. We don't leave our country. I mean, it really is. We don't look at the world as globally as almost every other country in the world looks at the world. And I think knowing those flight times and where they were, I mean, I think we'll figure out a way to get geography involved because we used geography when we were talking during the pandemic, Paolo and I, because there was countries. There was the Faroe Islands. Now, I was on the president's list. I went like 5 semesters without anything but an A, and I couldn't tell you where the Faroe Islands were. And I had to look it on a map, and it's literally they're in the North Circle. And the reason that, we were getting games from there is because they thawed out. They had grass, so they were able to play soccer. I'm assuming they hunt elk in the winter. I don't think they play soccer. So yeah, I'm really excited about the geography. So I have no idea where Ottawa is, but they have a hockey team. Sask doesn't have a hockey team in the NHL, do they?
Well, Sask, I don't know because I believe Sask is a province. It's a state. So Ottawa is close to Toronto. It's somewhere in between Toronto and Montreal. It's a part of Ontario. But in Saskatchewan, I believe they do, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'm going to check. You know what? We've got 3 or 4 hockey podcasts on the networks we do, and I'm going to check in with one of those guys and make myself a note.
Because it's like British Columbia, the BC Lions that are playing tonight. There is hockey teams in British Columbia. There's the Vancouver Canucks. Because British Columbia is the state and Vancouver is the city within it. And I don't know, Canada's 7 states, 8 states. It's different. I probably need the geography lesson too. I know all the words to the anthem though.
Well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Give me the words to cash and tickets for Saturday's game.
Saturday's game. Well, the next one is Sask, and I said it earlier when you brought it up. I'm not laying 10.5 points. There's no when. With Calgary, we're taking 5.5 points. With a game like that on the table, there's no reason to lay 7.5 points. I believe in Sask. I think that they will win the game. They'll probably cover the spread, but it's just not. I don't need to put the money on the spread. I'm taking Sask in the over. I think that they're going to hang 30 points. Cody Fajardo is that good. He's probably going to end up being most outstanding player this year if he continues on this pace. He's running the ball. He's deadly accurate with it. Their defense is getting takeaways. So I'm going with Sask over 13.5 for the first half. If it drops, I'll hit it for more. And then I'm going over the 26.5 or 27 for the first half, or I'm sorry, for the game. And that's my play. Whoever wins, wins. I have no concern for the spread. If you wanted to parlay it, I would say parlay one of those with the money line. I don't think that Ottawa is going to put up much points. Ottawa barely beat a struggling Edmonton team. The only thing is Ottawa Red Blacks are coming off of a bye. They're coming off a bye, and then they're going on the road. In the CFL, the bye does matter a little bit because there is a lot of trickery that takes place with the motion. All players can motion at the same time, forward, back. For the most part, the game is hurry up. And I could see them stealing a couple cheap rouge points and singles and things like that to just really muddy up the spread.
That's exactly where I was coming at. You remember now, when you join in on Saturdays, to be determined, and you catch us for Saturdays in Canada, you're going to catch some of that because last week, Sask had a 32-9 lead. And I looked at what I thought was a typo for the second half. They were outscored 1-20. And I said, oh, my God, I must have made a mistake when I was typing it in. And I went back and I didn't make a mistake. They scored 1. So that'll be that. We talked about the dictionary, the CFL dictionary that you're going to come up with. So because I have no idea how it could be 1-20, but it was. Boy, that's a backdoor cover right there. I think you had mentioned it earlier, actually.
That's the most painful one to see is when they score, you still have the half a point and you have the dog, but then on the kickoff, they just kick the bejesus out of the ball and it goes out of the end zone, no return, 1 point, lost your hook, and there's 3 seconds left to the game, and it was an unlosable play, and the CFL can do that. Yeah,
you mentioned it. You've mentioned that before. All right, so and finally, the very last segment on To Be Determined Saturday mornings, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock San Diego time, is called Wake and Bake, and it really is. If you've never experienced what it's like to have to get up, handicap, get all your plays in before 9 o'clock, then you may not appreciate what it means to have legalized marijuana in your state. But when we're done with the show, you will know, and I'm not lying, it is without a doubt the most excited segment I am looking forward to because we could do so many things. We're basically going to introduce sports betting and marijuana on the air at the same time, and I'm looking forward to it. But what we're going to do before that is we're going to talk a little bit of horse racing only because 13 minutes from my house Saturday morning is Del Mar. And we've got the Del Mar race of the meet, which is the Pacific Classic. It's not only a $1 million race, but it is actually also one of the winning you're in. So if you win this, you get to go to Breeders' Cup. You're in the race. It doesn't matter. You're in. And that is a pretty big deal when you look at what the Classic is. I think it's, I don't know, how many millions? It's multiple millions right now. Isn't it, Wes, the Classic?
I think the Classic is up to 6.
Yeah, I know it's multiple millions. It's not Dubai type of money, but it is. And so what I'm going to do real quick here, I'm going to look up because I didn't do it ahead of time, mostly because I wasn't sure if we were going to have time to get to it. But there is nothing better. If you've never been to Saratoga or Del Mar in the summer, it really is a thing where you need to get off your doofus and go there because the people watching is extraordinary. The quality of the horse is really, really good. Saratoga a little better actually than Del Mar this summer. And I don't know if that's just the state of California racing in general. But what we're looking at for the TVG Pacific Classic, it's race 10. It's 9:33 East Coast time. Think about that. I mean, normally at 9:33, you're betting the Trotters from Hoosier Park or something, you know? But it's got, I think it was 8 runners. They had 8. They were saying, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 9. They've got 9 runners. And, you know, there's a few horses in there that if you're a bettor, you've heard of these horses. And, of course, all the best jockeys. So what I'd like to do, Wes, is I think that's something that we'll do as part of our texting back and forth on Saturday, because I will pick up the racing for him tomorrow, and then I'll post some plays on the internet, and we could pass those around. How does that work for you?
I'm into it, and I'm actually going to be in Colorado, so I'll be on Mountain Time. I'll be an hour closer to the reality that you two gentlemen live every single day versus me waking up at what's 4:00 in the morning your time. And,
so it's 8:33. It'll be post time is 8:33 Mountain Time, right?
Yeah. So I'll be a little bit closer to your reality.
No doubt about it. All right, before we go, let's we got on the bottom of the screen. You can play like the public with the guys' links. Go to the cash tickets here page. I actually recently updated that, so it's got all their information. Before we let you go, John from GMF Sports, let them know how to find you.
Instagram, GMF_sports_consultants. Find it on the ticker. Same thing for Facebook, GMF Sports Betting. And you can also, if you want to just pull up my website on the internet, you can also get a hold of me and view my package options available on there as well.
Remember, if you follow these guys, you'll cash tickets. Now, will you cash more tickets than you would normally? Yeah, you know what? I'm going to lean towards yes. I'm going to lean towards you. I don't know you. I don't know how well you handicap, but I know them and I know how well they can handicap. Wes, where are you?
You can find me by following the links below, 151 Sports, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I'm at Chicago Options Trader. That's my members page, and we're doing stock plays during the week. We had 113% stock trade overnight. In 24 hours, 113% gain in the stock market. One of the guys gave away. So a lot of winners going on in there. So if you want to play the market during the week in cryptos and then sports betting on the weekends, you can find me at Chicago Options Trader and any one of the links down below.
There you go. I am Second Half Chaz. If you want to be part of the show, hit us up at sportsbettingweekly.com. Thanks for watching. You've been following us on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. We're on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network on the Sports Betting Channel. And do me a favor, always be cashing.